Continuing with Book 3, Chapter 117, verse 26. Let us begin by closing the eyes. Seated in a comfortable meditation posture with the eyes closed, look for the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence. Become the silence. This is the silent witness. You are the silent witness. Watch the conscious thinking mind. Listen to my words from the Yoga Vasishta while remaining with eyes closed, established in the silent witness. A long and continuous waking dream is described as the waking state, Jagrat, and it becomes diversified according to the diversity of its objects. The waking state contains under it the conditions of the wakeful soul of God. This is, of course, the silent witness. Also, there are many things under these conditions that mislead men from one error to another. Like a storm casts boats into the whirlpools and eddies. Some of the lengthened dreams in sleep appear like the waking sight of daylight, while others, those seen in broad daylight of the waking state, are no better than night dreams seen in the daytime, and therefore are called our daydreams. I have thus far related to you the 7 grades of the grounds of ignorance, which with all their varieties are to be carefully avoided by the right use of our reason and by the sight of the Supreme Soul in ourselves. So what Vasishta is telling us is we always maintain the silent witness, living in the eternal now of the silent witness. And we avoid becoming attached to the 7 grounds of ignorance with the use of our reason. As soon as we notice we are discriminating, we are making decisions, we are deciding, I should do this, I must not do that. We have thoughts. This is the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do. Those thoughts are signals that we have come out of the Supreme Soul. We have disengaged ourselves from the silent witness. When we are established in the silent witness, the mind ceases thinking. Now you might say, well, I connect with the silent witness, yet my mind continues to think. That's okay. You're at a good stage, but you haven't arrived yet connecting with the silent witness. The mind cannot think. There can be no thought when you are truly established as the silent witness. But you can get very close to it. You can feel the wonderful silent witness, eternal now, in your consciousness. And at the same time have thoughts. And that is just a step in the right direction. Continue to use your discrimination until you find you cannot use it anymore. When discrimination ceases, you are established in the silent witness. Chapter 118, the 7 stages of knowledge, which is to continue. O sinless Ram, now listen about the 7 stages of awareness. This knowledge will keep you from purging into the mire of ignorance. Disputants are apt to describe many more stages of yoga meditation. But in my opinion, these 7 are sufficient to attain the chief good of ultimate liberation. Knowledge is understanding. It is enough for understanding to know only these 7 stages. However, liberation, which is the object of knowledge, transcends knowing these 7 stages. Knowledge of truth is liberation. Knowledge, truth, and liberation are synonymous because the living being who has known the truth is freed from reincarnation by his liberation. The grounds of knowledge comprise the desire of becoming good, and this good will at the first step. Then comes discretion or reasoning, a second, followed by purity of mind, which is the 3rd grade to gaining knowledge. The 4th is self-reliance as the true refuge. Then worldly apathy as the 5th. The 6th is the power of abstraction. And the 7th, or the last stage of knowledge, is generalization of all into one. Turyagati. Liberation is placed at the end of these and is attained without difficulty after that. So what is Vasishtha described here in his 7 stages or steps of knowledge? He has described the changes in the mind which occur as individual karmic traces are balanced more and more. It will start always with the desire of becoming better, the desire for change in a better direction. This occurs at level of consciousness 200. At level of consciousness 200 comes the desire of changing one's approach to life. At lower levels, below 200, the desire is to dominate and control one's life and the lives of others, and success is measured on how well one can accomplish that. But at 200, there comes a change in which one begins to feel and believe that instead of controlling, one should be more loving. Loving is bringing together, uniting. And so the glimmer of love begins at level of consciousness 200 as a desire to be less authoritative, demanding and controlling as a measure of success. And the measure of success comes with finding that one is more accepting, generous, and loving. Then comes discretion and reasoning, which begins to follow along as one moves toward level of consciousness 400. At level of consciousness 400, reasoning and discretion become very important. Then purity of the mind. Purity of the mind occurs when one begins to see the transparency of the individual karmic traces. They have become thinned by the practice of meditation and the balancing of karmic traces. That is purity of mind. The fourth is self-reliance. When one reaches level of consciousness 400, one realizes, I can understand through discrimination all that there is to know about the world and direct my life more and more toward a higher good of greater unity and love. I am more reliant on my own self than on others. The worldly apathy is the fifth. Now, this word apathy can be used also to describe a very low level of consciousness that would appear at about level 100. But this level of apathy is different. At level 100, the apathy is, I can do nothing. I don't even feel to try. I am totally dominated by my karma, and I am helpless. But at this fifth stage, worldly apathy means I no longer see the world, the external world, relative world, as valuable. What has become more valuable is my internal state and experience. And are moving into level 500. The sixth is the power of abstraction, or being established in that inner light of the silent witness. And then generalizing all in one. We have reached the higher levels of the 500 at that point, and the next step is liberation. Moksha level 600. Level of consciousness 600 then. Spontaneously dawns as we remain always established in the silent witness. Continuing, attend now to the definitions of these steps as I shall explain them to you. First of all, is the desire of goodness springing from dispassion from worldly matters and consisting in the thought, why do I sit idle? I must know the scriptures in the company of good men. The second is discretion, which arises from association with wise and good men, study of the scriptures, habitual aversion to worldliness, and consists in an inclination towards good conduct and doing all sorts of good acts. Now we will continue with eyes closed established in the silent witness, in the eternal now, watching the conscious thinking mind, we start the mantra. Let it go, follow it to the deepest level of consciousness, where it will balance all individual karmic traces that have been enlivened and brought to the surface by the reading today. These are the knowledge constructs that are at the deepest level of the mind in the Manomaya kosha. Take her down.